See what it looks like. I'm just going to talk to you about Toad Road. All right, how you doing, everyone? We're going to talk about the 2012 independent film Toad Road, directed by Dan Banker. Dan Banker is from York, Pennsylvania. I am from York, Pennsylvania, and I'm joined tonight by a very special guest via the phone, my wife, Mary Beth. How you doing, Mary Beth?
I'm doing pretty good.
Doing pretty good. You're in the other room, so no one can see you. So we watched Toad Road. How long ago was it that we watched Toad Road?
Oh, just a few months ago.
Few months. I watched it again last night. So I'm going to talk about Toad Road with you a little bit. I'm also going to talk about Toad Road hopefully pretty soon with Joe Manduke. So you liked Toad Road, is that correct?
Yeah, I really liked it a lot, actually. I was pleasantly surprised.
So Toad Road, I'm just going to briefly describe it if you want to add anything. And this could be kind of an appetizer to my conversation with Joe, who, by the way, is watching it as we speak. And if you're watching this video, it's on YouTube. Toad Road is available on YouTube, so you can watch it for free. I gotta do a search it in there. As I already said, this is a film from 2012 by Dan Banker. This is a semi-documentary, I'll call it. It's technically listed as a horror movie, although it doesn't come through with a lot of the horror elements. It's more of a real-life drama with some horrific events that happen in it. Centers around a group of young adults who in the film are from York, Pennsylvania, although the director found them on MySpace, and from what I understand, they're all from Baltimore. The two main actors are named James and Sarah, and in the film, he uses the actors' real names in the film. So their real names are James and Sarah. And from what I understand, these actors already knew each other. And so this film was also co-produced by Elijah Wood, the actor, and the director of the movie, Dan Banker, has said that something like 70% of the film is actually in documentary form, meaning they're not acting. So before I go into any of the plots or anything else about the film, so it is laid against the backdrop of this urban legend of Toad Road. So Mary Beth, had you heard of Toad Road prior to watching this movie?
Never.
What do you know about Toad Road now?
Well, I took a little drive by it. It's actually kind of close to where we live. And it's kind of like an urban legend. Um, and I don't want to ruin it for the viewers, but um, the seven gates of hell is
Yeah,
what they call it.
it's in Pelham, PA. So we're it's about 15 minutes from our house. It's in York County, Pennsylvania, and it's in Pelham Township. And so the urban legend, if you want to call it that, goes that there is a road called Toad Road, which is probably a derivation of the word tow, Tow, tow road, because it runs up to the Codorus, which in the 19th century and up into the 20th century was used as a canal, which needed to the boats on the canal needed to be towed. There was also a canal uh, keeper, I guess you would call it, and his house is somewhere around there. But over time, it came to be called Toad Road. And according to the legend, there are seven gates along Toad Road. And if you get through the seventh gate, it will take you to hell, which doesn't sound like that's something anybody should want to do, but for some reason, people want to walk back through there. And according to some versions of the story, no one's made it past the fifth gate. There's also versions of the story that say that there was some kind of insane asylum back there that burnt down, and so the patients were attempting to escape and they were caught in the fire. And so presumably their spirits haunt Toad Road, and that's why it's a haunted place. If you go back there, you can look at other videos on YouTube where people do go at least drive up to Toad Road. I wouldn't recommend, from a legal perspective, that anybody goes through the first gate because it is posted as private property. So technically it's illegal, but there is state-owned land that runs parallel to it, so you can see the topography there and you can go back there. So this is the urban legend or the local legend of Toad Road and the Seven Gates of Hell. And so the director has used this urban legend as a vehicle to talk about this group of young adults and these young adults are seeming the glue that holds their group together in large part uh, is drug use. So there's a lot of drug use in the film, and again, the director has stated that it's a documentary style film in large part. So, from what I understand, the drug use that you're seeing in the film is them actually doing the drugs. So, from a moral point of view, this isn't something I would condone. I wouldn't suggest this for younger people because there is foul language, there's drug use. But that's the backdrop for the story of these two young adults, James and Sarah. And Sarah is in town to go to school, presumably York College, although it doesn't say that. And she's a kind of straight-laced young woman, and she meets this group, and she begins a romantic relationship with James. And because James's whole lifestyle is centered upon drug use, and then also music, etc., everything to do with that party lifestyle, she wants to do drugs as well. And so she has never done this before. So there's a scene where they go into a cave and they eat psychedelic mushrooms. So this is the first time that she's done this, and this is right after he has told her about the legend of Toad Road. And so she has a kind of semi-mystical experience with the psychedelic mushrooms, and that carries through the film because eventually she wants to go to Toad Road. She wants to see for herself and have some kind of like semi-spiritual experience related to drug use to move to another plane of existence, whereas James just wants to use drugs to get high and escape his life because he's kind of a deadbeat. He lives off of his father's income, and that's all he does is drink and do drugs and hang out and not really doing much else. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, just about.
So, so I'm gonna talk to Joe about this a little more, but I wanted to talk about this a little the backdrop of the urban legend, and maybe I'll post this on YouTube so people can hear someone else's perspective as well. What was it about the film? Well, let me ask you this before I ask you what you liked about it. If you came across this movie or someone described this movie to you, is this a movie that you would normally want to watch?
Well, considering that it's in York County, I might be interested, but not unless I um somebody talked it up and said you got to watch this.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
might not watch it.
I think it was the same thing for me. I probably wouldn't watch something like that, but I saw there was another guy on YouTube and has a bigger YouTube channel, talks about history and weird history things in Pennsylvania. And he was talking about Toad Road and the Seven Gates of Hell. And he mentioned this film and that it was a really good film. And so the director's from York, and it's about a local thing that I have heard about a lot of my life. And so I was interested from that perspective. And then I did watch it. I'm going to talk about maybe the ins and outs of the film a little more and break it down more with Joe because that's what he likes to do. But I did like the movie as well. One thing I will point out, and it's kind of a bitter irony because it's related to drug use, that the main character in the film, well, the two main characters are James and Sarah. The female lead in the film, Sarah, shortly after they finished filming this movie Toad Road, she died of an overdose in New York, I believe in 2012. So she actually really did die. She really did walk down that this went through those seven gates. As if you want to relate that to drug use, it really cost her her life. So it's kind of a bitter irony there, because when you understand what happens to her in the film, um, so I did find some of the drug use in the movie a little depressing. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I did get a sense of dread and sadness from a lot of the movie, especially after I read up on it afterwards.
Hmm. It is there's kind of a tragedy in it, but I think that's what he wanted because there's always a kind of tragedy when your life is centered around something like illicit drug use and those kind of things. You can't really, so in the movie, the main character James goes to visit he goes to talk to a therapist throughout here and there. Um, and they talk about how do you form relationships and what are your relationships based on. If you're building your relationships on something like drugs, something like that, you're going to experience tragedy. You're going to overdose, or someone you know is going to overdose, or the whole thing is going to fall apart. That's not a long-term relationship builder, things like that. So it is a little bit there's a darkness underlying this, but I thought it was very interesting using people that he found on MySpace, on the social media app, get using their own names. They already knew each other. They already had a kind of relationship to each other. And so a lot of the film is just scenes of them hanging out and doing what they would already do anyway. Uh, that kind of lifestyle anyway. But then using the Seven Gates of Hell, the Toad Road legend as a vehicle to talk about this group and mainly to talk about James and Sarah and to talk about the search for meaning because a lot of people get involved with drugs or they keep doing drugs or they stay in that kind of lifestyle because they're looking for some kind of meaning, some kind of deeper spiritual meaning in their life. But overall, I think it was a good film. Did you think it was scary?
Well, I kind of have mixed feelings. I don't think I would call it horror as it's labeled, but there were some horror elements, especially at the very end, that, you're like kind of on edge. There's a really big jump scare, um, using like the camera effects that I've never really even seen before in movies. You would think that it's on a like a higher end cinematography, but it's simple, but it's near the end.
Yeah, I thought the cinematography was pretty good throughout. I thought the audio was good. There's some music in there, but it's a lot of ambient
Hmm.
noise, ambient music. Um, I thought it was really well done, and some of those shots are really well done. And it's creepy at parts. It's listed as a horror movie. Um, but a lot of people that are into horror movies might not be into this as much for that element because it's not straight horror. There is some little things that might make you jump or creep you out. I think it's more like to me, I would classify it more as a kind of almost like a dark fairy tale. It's a dystopian, it's a downward spiral fairy tale. There's actually mythic elements in it. And there's also a sadness to it. You're really not left with as many answers as maybe you would like at the end of it without giving away the end. Um, but it really shows the unraveling of someone's life. Uh, and it's precipitated by going down this toad road, but really I think it's not it's a thinly veiled allegory about drug addiction. And so
Yeah,
um,
there's the director really captures the like the sense of hopelessness and boredom with a lot of the scenes. Um, just like you said, with the music and the angles and the real life emotions of the actors.
mhm. And I think, I mean, you don't have to be, but I think if you're from this area, York, South Central Pennsylvania, Baltimore area, you know, there's also that like some of the scenes, I know exactly where it's at. It's like I said, it's not far from my
Hmm.
house. And some of the scenes were shot in Baltimore County. I think it's Rock State Park, it looks like. And there's some other places like
Hmm.
that. So it's interesting from that point of view if you're from York or you're from northern Baltimore County or you're familiar with this area. There's some shots there that are familiar. I think it's a very well done movie for the budget. I'd never heard of it before, never heard of that of the director before, so it was kind of happenstance that I came across it and watched it. And I think it's worth viewing for anybody that wants to. Just be forewarned. There's some strong language. There's drug use. and it's pretty detailed in some elements with the drug use. Um, so these people are living a kind of life of dissipation, we would call it moral theology. Um, but you see what happens. You see what happens when you walk down that road, this Toad Road, and you walk through these gates. Um, and so it there's also that tragedy that in real life the actress passed away. But then you see the Sarah and James figures as they both go down this same road and they go in completely different directions. There's a scene also, I don't know if you remember toward the end, I think it's filmed in Ocean City, uh, that is also interesting camera work, cinematography, and very bleak. James actually ends up down toward the end in Ocean City, and I'm not going to give away the whole thing, but there's some very interesting shots in there, some very beautiful shots. Um, so all in all, I I think it's a pretty good movie. So thank you for talking to me about Toad Road. You have anything you want to add before I end this video?
Not really. You kind of caught me off guard, but thank you for including me. And um, really, the movie is not that long. What is it? 30 minutes? 40
No, it's
minutes?
longer than that. It's at least an hour. I don't, it's longer than that.
Hmm.
I think it's like an
Oh.
hour and 20. It's a little longer. But I can see why you would say that because it moves quickly. It's not terribly
Mhm.
long, but I think it's at least an hour. It moves very quickly. A lot of it is in a documentary style. Um,
Yeah, it's almost like a home movie, like
it is. And it
a
looks
home
very real
film.
because it is very real. Um,
Yeah.
and anybody, you don't have to be, but anybody that grew up in that era, if you knew people like that, I mean, it looks like people I've known before, even the $100 haircut. I It looks like a lot of people, and you see everything gross they do and how stupid they are, and then how they know each other, how they relate to each other, and that kind of life of just going from one time of hanging out to the next. Uh, it's interesting. Moves quickly, not very long, and hey, it's free on YouTube. It's worth checking out. Let me know if you're watching this video. Let me know what you think. Stay tuned because I'm going to also review this video with Joe Manduke, Manduke Media, Manduke Reviews. Joe Manduke is on YouTube as well. We'll probably do that pretty soon. So thank you very much, Mary Beth. I'll let you get back to sleep. That was my wife and I talking about the 2012 film Toad Road, directed by Dan Banker from York, Pennsylvania. Say good night, Mary Beth.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Good
Good
night.
night.